If you're preparing for the OET writing test, it's absolutely essential that you have the most up-to-date information on the assessment criteria. So keep watching for some essential tips and strategies to help you get a high score in your OET writing test. Hi there everyone, and welcome to this OET video from Swoosh English. My name is Grace, I am Academic Manager and Expert OET Teacher. And in this video today, we're going to look at the criteria for genre and style. So this is one part of the OET writing assessment criteria. And if you want to get a high score, it's really important that you know exactly what the examiner is looking for. So the purpose of this video is to break down the criteria in a way that you can really understand it and then go through exactly what you need to do to satisfy that criteria and get a high score for your letter. So let's get started. We'll begin by looking at what is involved in getting the highest possible score for genre and style. This comes directly from the OET assessment criteria for the writing test. So let's break down each part of this criteria. The first part is that the writing needs to be clinical and factual. So that's the style that you're going to write in. It needs to be appropriate for the reader, so keeping in mind who your reader is, their job, their discipline, the knowledge that they have, and making sure that your language, the way that you write, is appropriate for that particular reader. You need to make sure that any technical language or abbreviations that you use are appropriate. So again, keeping in mind your reader and what they will understand. And it's very important in our letter that we use polite language. You're going to be making lots of requests in your letter, and it's important that you do it in a polite way. So we've got about 4 things that we need to think about in order to satisfy this criteria. And as you could see, for genre and style, it is really important that you're keeping your reader in mind to make sure that everything that you're writing is appropriate for that specific reader. Thinking about the tone and the formality that you use, and making sure that any abbreviations or technical language is easily understood by that particular person. Now we're going to break it down even more and look at exactly what you should and shouldn't do in order to get a good score for genre and style. The first thing to keep in mind is that you need to keep your writing formal. That's easily said, but what exactly do we mean by that? Let's take a look. So how can we make sure that our writing is formal? Well, firstly, you need to write in full sentences. Remember that the case notes are presented to you in note form, but it's very important that you actually change those notes into full grammatical sentences. So that is the first thing that would be a feature of formal writing. Next, avoid contractions. For example, you should write I am writing to instead of using the contraction I'm. So this applies to all contractions, I'm, your, he's. Any contraction like that you really need to avoid in formal writing. Write it out correctly using the words. And you should use formal language. Now by this we mean you should use passive voice. But you should also use language that's more formal or more appropriate for a formal situation. For example, her elevated blood pressure suggests would be much more appropriate instead of saying, I think that her high blood pressure means. So the use of language like I think in an OET letter is not formal enough. Using words like suggests, that is definitely more appropriate. So making sure that you are familiar with formal language so you can use it correctly in your letter. The next piece of advice I have for you is to keep it factual. Remember, we have to write in a clinical and factual style. This means avoiding giving your own personal opinions or using judgmental language. Let's take a look and see exactly what we mean by this. So, when we are keeping it factual, we are, of course, stating the facts and making sure that we avoid judgmental language. For example, she smokes 30 cigarettes a day is a good sentence because we are reporting the facts directly from the case notes. rather than she is a heavy smoker. Apart from not being particularly factual, because heavy smoker could mean any number of cigarettes, it also implies judgment, so the use of that word heavy. We really want to avoid that type of language. Other language that you should avoid to be using your opinion or implying judgment would be words like unfortunately. Unfortunately suggests a personal opinion or judgment and has no place in an OET letter. So just being careful that you are reporting facts and you're not putting your own personal emotions or personal judgments into that letter. The next thing we need to think about is the appropriate use of abbreviations and technical language. And in order to do this, you've got to take the reader's position and knowledge into account. So for this one, we're really thinking about who we're writing to and what profession-specific knowledge they might have. For example, if you are a doctor and you are writing to another doctor in a specialized profession, you might be able to use certain abbreviations or technical words because you know that someone in that profession would know what you mean. However, if you're writing to the manager of a care home, it's less likely that they will know those specialist medical abbreviations and terms. So make sure that you're always keeping your reader in mind so that any language, technical terms, abbreviations are being used appropriately. Finally, you need to ensure that you are always being polite throughout your letter. So this means showing appreciation. For example, thank you for your continued management of. So starting the letter by saying thank you. And making sure that any requests you make are polite. So a nice little useful phrase that you can use is, it would be appreciated if. So it would be appreciated if you could make a follow-up appointment with this patient, for example. And always end your letter politely. Now you can use pretty much the same sentence to end all of your letters. If you require any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. So this is a really nice one to memorize and stick at the end of your letters so that you're making sure you are always ending politely and appropriately. So those are my top tips for how to get a high score in genre and style for OET writing. Remember, it's all about the reader. Who they are, what their job is, making sure that you are addressing them politely, using appropriate language that they will understand, and ensuring that you are communicating in a factual, clinical, and formal style. If you can keep all of these things in mind and do them in your letter, there's no reason why you shouldn't get a nice high score in that assessment criteria. Now remember that practice makes perfect, so it's great to watch a video like this, but now you need to go away and put everything that you've learned into practice by writing your own OET letter. It's a really important part of preparation to get help from an expert teacher to make sure that you can see where you're going wrong, your strengths, and how to improve with each letter. So if you haven't already got the help of an expert teacher like those at Swoosh English, then you can always head on over to our website, browse our preparation courses, and find one that works for you. I'd also like to invite you to our free OET masterclass. In that masterclass, you can get even more expert tips and advice to help you with your OET preparation. And remember, it's absolutely free to sign up and attend. You can find information about the masterclass in the description below this video. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Happy studying and goodbye.